I've been hiding all my life, and it's only now that I've got my diagnosis that I realise quite how deep that goes. I'm an actor, I'm an audiobook narrator, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an ex-dancer, and I've been doing all these things, presenting one self, presenting one version of Kat to the world, whilst there's a hell of a lot of stuff that I've been hiding and just terrified to expose. I pretty much grew up in the ballet world, training throughout my teens professionally as a ballet dancer, and I think that it's a wonderful thing to do, but it's also there's a lot of problems that can come with it. There's a lot of sacrifice, and almost bound up in the ethos of ballet is that you sacrifice yourself for your art and you push yourself every day and are never good enough, and you take criticism and you will be in pain and you will be exhausted, but you keep pushing. And that education, I think really reinforced the masking that I was already doing, the hiding that I was already doing to try and fit in and to try and be what I felt I had to be in the world. Then I became an actor. And of course that's all about your public face and people's perception of you, and let's cast you, so what box do you fit into, and you look like this type, so you're going to be in this kind of movie, or and much as actors, want to play different parts, and some are lucky enough to, but especially when you're starting out, you are a type, and what you present as is what you will be cast as. And it's also, you're exposing yourself to the public eye, if you like, but you're also hiding behind different masks, ironically. And during that whole time, my whole life, I've been really, really struggling. I've had OCD my whole life. I am on medication for it. It severely restricts my life. As an example, I only eat once a day. The last time I had breakfast was, I think, in 2021 when I had some egg whites, and that's the last time I remember for a decade, maybe before that. And my OCD revolves a lot around that and that evening meal, to the extent that as of today, my pre-dinner routine takes on average an hour and a half before I can sit down and eat, and to eat my dinner takes 2 hours, and that's because of all the OCD business around it. It still feels really weird telling people this, because even my partner doesn't really know quite how long that's been going on. That's just the current version of the OCD manifestation, and there have been lots of other different versions throughout the years, but that maybe illustrates a bit of the level of my OCD. I was housebound for a number of years and then couldn't leave the house without my mum. During that time I was still supposedly a working actor, and I was doing jobs, doing auditions. My mum would have to come with me to all of these and stay in the hotel next door to me. I would make excuses and I made up lies because my anxiety was so high that I wasn't able to walk down the road, let alone turn up on a movie set. My eating disorder has been diagnosed in the past as anorexia. And twice in my life, I've been strongly, strongly advised to do inpatient treatment. I resisted that, and now I kind of understand why, because as an autistic person who struggles with eating around other people and the sensory aspects of eating and having food inside me, and just the overwhelm of issues surrounding food for me, having to go into an inpatient situation where I would be made to eat 5 times a day and would not be allowed to exercise, not an option. The laxatives that I have relied on for years would be taken away. I have been abusing laxatives for at least a decade, probably longer. The exercise is another huge thing. Again, as of today, I do between 4 and 5 hours on my cross trainer a day. And at various points it's been worse. During the lockdown, there were days when it got up to 8, and 6 to 7 hours on my cross trainer was probably about the average during that time. For years of my life, I existed only on liquids, oils, a liquid kind of build up, shake. Long phases of my life, I've basically lived off jelly and ice cream, and supplements. I didn't have a relationship until very, very late. I was a massively late starter. I don't know if I'm quite ready to talk about that side of things yet, but put it this way, first kiss, first everything was seriously, seriously late. And yet I was, working as an actor, and people maybe had certain assumptions about my level of confidence and my just kind of worldliness or comfort in myself, which just wasn't there. So the massive gap between me out in the world, or the cat out in the world, because it almost didn't feel like me, but as people perceived me, as people saw me, as I maybe presented, that's not the person that I felt inside. And so the kind of gulf between the two becomes wider and wider and wider, and the shame becomes deeper and deeper and deeper, and the absolute terror of kind of being found out gets worse and worse and worse. And I honestly don't know quite how I'm here today, in the sense that it's a miracle I'm still alive and kicking. So I say all this, and I'm being open about all of this, finally, because I have now been diagnosed with autism and ADHD, and finally, my life makes sense. The difficulty I've had just existing makes sense. The desire to be out in the world, and the passion for life and enjoyment and desire to keep pushing and surviving, but contrasted with just the difficulties of getting up and being healthy enough. The extremity of my coping mechanisms to get through what I perceived to be me just dealing worse with the world than everyone else was is so beyond kind of like my comprehension. Like I can't quite believe like how I'm here, because the difficulties I've had, going on stage 8 times a week for 8 shows a week in the West End, in the bustle of London, experiencing sensory overload, losing massive amounts of weight, and feeling second to second like I don't know how I can hold this together. I feel like I'm going to die every second. I need to now be open about this for my sake and for other people's sake, because if anyone else is experiencing even a fraction of that, that is not okay with me. And I've spent my whole life, as so many people on the spectrum have who have a late diagnosis, gaslighting. It seems an inappropriate word for the experiences that we've gone through, but gaslighting is technically the correct word, because you deny what you're experiencing. You deny the fact that the simple things are so difficult for you, and that the things that are supposed to be fun, like being out in the world and socializing and going to events, and are filled with so much pain and suffering and lead to so much exhaustion and overwhelm and destructive compensatory coping mechanisms. You tell yourself you're being too sensitive. Other people tell you you're being too sensitive. I struggle so much with having food inside me that I fairly often have a breakdown if I feel that it hasn't been adequately cleared, or if I have digestive discomfort of any kind, which can range from a little bit of like stomach noise to, something more severe. But that experience for me has been so overwhelming and so difficult to deal with that I have been in tears and tantrum and like wanting to rip my insides out to this day. Like, it's not something that happened when I was a child and I grew out of it. It's like, that is something I deal with pretty much daily. Not pretty much daily, every single day, almost moment to moment, of how my insides are doing, how my body feels, my level of comfort or more likely discomfort in the world. But to then be, you know, you've got the rational world and outsiders and your own voice telling you how ridiculous that is. And everyone has food inside them. Everyone has to eat. And it's a normal thing, and that the little bit of stomach noise means nothing, and it's nothing to concern you. So you tell yourself all of this, effectively like denying this extreme physical experience that you have. And that's my particular thing, and for other people it's going to be something different. It could be anything, but the fact that you get accused, you get called oversensitive by yourself as much as anything, it's like, just get over it, just deal with it. Why do you need to take this food with you? Why are you having a meltdown? Those kind of things. When you get a diagnosis, you finally feel validated in that, and that is so huge, because when every part of your life experience has been something that you try to persuade yourself is not really there, or that you shouldn't be, that just shouldn't be the case, because everyone else is not dealing like this, and you just need to get over yourself and deal and manage, and it literally means the world. And if you've been masking like me, it's a massive thing to begin to wonder what letting that mask down is. Now that I know who I am, now that I know that I make sense, it is so important for me to be open about it, because if I don't tell people, if I tell some people but not tell everything, that's going backwards. And I can't go backwards, because it's just not an option for me anymore. Like, I can't go back. Now I have this awareness. Now I know who I am. And I have an explanation for everything in my life, every experience. And anyone who's been through this later in life diagnosis will totally get where I'm coming from, because you go through and you reframe everything through the neurodivergent lens. And you're like, that was why that was so difficult. And it can be the smallest thing, and it can be the most massive thing. You reframe everything, and it's so much to take in, but that can't be reversed. You can't undo that realization and those revelations. I'm calling them revelations because that's what it feels like. It's just the world opening up and me finally actually seeing myself for who I am. And masking is so destructive. It helps us get through in a world that is difficult for us and is not built for us. But it's ultimately stifling ourselves and damaging ourselves. So, put it this way. I never in a million years would ever have thought that I would be sitting here today and saying I am neurodivergent, that I have ADHD, that I have autism. That was not my understanding of what I was dealing with. My life experience was what I'd always known. I knew how difficult it was, but it's not like a phase of anxiety which comes and goes. Like it's been my constant experience. So how on earth could I see that as something that was just not normal? Again, it becomes the self-blame situation. It must just be me coping badly. Sort it out, get on with it, carry on, push, push, push. So my impressions of autism and ADHD were stereotypical ones, particularly male traits, obsession, no eye contact, nothing. None of this applies to me. And it's only through watching other people on YouTube and watching people on TikTok and seeing other women particularly out there and how differently ADHD presents in women that I began to find me in them. So I wondered why there were so many people suddenly being ADHD and to now understand that it's not that there are suddenly more people with ADHD, more people with autism. It's because the kind of just endless ways in which these things can present is being revealed for the first time. We are learning so much more about how neurodivergence can reveal itself and can be masked so brilliantly by particularly women. I now understand how that not only applies to other people, but applies to me. So if I, someone who has experienced this level of struggle, if I had no idea that that was me, how on earth could someone else know that that was me or that that was them? And so it becomes even more important for me to be open, because if there's anyone out there who's hiding a diagnosis, hiding what they suspect might be them, not knowing that all their struggle and all their pain and all their suffering could be due to this, and that there is a way to know who you are and to begin to understand how you can better meet your needs and look after yourself and care for yourself in the world. That is so important to me, and I can't hide for me, and I can't hide for other people. I never thought this would be me, so therefore it's important that I stand up and tell you that this is me. My name is my name is Catherine Press, and I have autism. I have ADHD. I am an actor. I'm an audiobook narrator. I'm a filmmaker. I'm an ex-dancer. But most of all, I'm just me. So now I finally understand who that is. And I really want that for you as well. So please be kind to yourselves. And if you think you resonate with any of this, then no matter whether it means wanting to get diagnosed or just, it's about fully seeing you and learning to manage your needs. And I'm right at the beginning of doing that. But this is my first step. And I don't want it to be too dramatic, and I didn't actually think I would cry, because I had so much that I wanted to get out, and I don't want this to become an emotional thing. But it is. So that's okay. Let's try again. I'm a late diagnosed, high masking ADHD woman. That's who I am. And I have no shame in that, because all it means is that I am stepping into me finally, and I can begin to look after myself better and maybe help someone else out there. That means everything to me now. No going back. Only forwards. This is me.